Michael Harrington sat in the air-conditioned conference room of Bangkok Bank's VIP branch in Phuket, watching a banker scroll through transaction records on a computer screen with an expression of increasing concern. It was 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, and Mike had been summoned here by an urgent call about irregularities in his accounts. Now, at 63 years old, with his shirt already sticking to his back despite the cold air, Mike watched $703,000 of his life savings disappear before his eyes in a cascade of outgoing wire transfers he'd never authorized. The banker, a young Thai woman named Kuna Pinya, pointed at the screen with a perfectly manicured finger. These transfers, Mr. Harrington, all went to offshore accounts in Singapore and Hong Kong over the past 8 months. You signed authorization for these? Mike's mouth went dry. I don't know. My fiancée Ploy handles most of the investment transfers. She's my business partner, but these amounts, he trailed off, staring at numbers that didn't make sense. $120,000, $95,000, $140,000. Transfers every few weeks, steadily draining his accounts while he'd been too distracted by love and dreams of their future to notice. Kuna Pinya's expression shifted from professional concern to something closer to pity. Mr. Harrington, I must inform you that our fraud department has flagged your accounts. These offshore companies you've been transferring to, they don't appear to exist. We cannot locate any legitimate business registration for them. Mike felt the room tilt. What do you mean they don't exist? Ploy showed me all the documents, business licenses, property deeds, development contracts. Everything looked legitimate. We've been building a resort together. But even as he said it, cold realization was flooding through him. The resort that was always almost ready for him to visit. The business meetings she always attended alone. The documents she'd shown him but never let him keep copies of. The investment opportunities that required immediate cash transfers. Everything he'd been too proud, too trusting, or too blinded by affection to question. Where is Miss Thanchanok now? Kuna Pinya asked gently. Mike pulled out his phone with trembling hands and tried calling Ploy. The number he'd called dozens of times a day for the past 14 months was disconnected. He tried line, blocked. He checked her location sharing, which she'd enabled months ago as a gesture of trust. Disabled. In that climate-controlled conference room, surrounded by the trappings of Thai banking professionalism, Michael Harrington understood with devastating clarity that the sophisticated businesswoman who'd promised him partnership, love, and a secure future in Thailand had executed one of the most elaborate cons he'd ever seen. And he, a former financial advisor who'd spent 35 years telling clients how to protect their money, had been the perfect mark. Michael Harrington had built his entire career on helping people make smart financial decisions. For 35 years, he'd worked as a financial advisor in Denver, Colorado, managing portfolios for high-net-worth clients and building a reputation for conservative, intelligent investment strategies. Mike wasn't flashy or aggressive like some advisors. He was methodical, careful, and deeply committed to protecting his clients' assets. He'd done well for himself, too. By the time he turned 60, Mike had accumulated approximately $1,200,000 in savings and investments, owned a paid-off house in a nice Denver suburb, and had a solid pension from his firm. He was the picture of financial success. But behind that success was a deep well of personal pain. Mike's wife, Caroline, had died 4 years ago from ovarian cancer. The disease had come suddenly and progressed brutally fast 11 months from diagnosis to death. Mike had been devoted to her through every agonizing stage, but nothing prepared him for the emptiness that followed. They'd been married for 32 years and had 2 children, a daughter named Emma who lived in Seattle and a son named David in Boston. Both were in their 30s, married with their own families, and both had become increasingly distant after Caroline's death. Mike couldn't blame them. He'd thrown himself into work as a coping mechanism, becoming unavailable and emotionally withdrawn. Emma had stopped calling after he'd missed his grandson's birthday party because of a client meeting. David sent perfunctory text messages on holidays, but nothing more. By the time Mike turned 62, he was professionally successful and personally isolated. He lived alone in a house filled with memories of Caroline, had no close friends beyond superficial work relationships, and spent his evenings drinking whiskey and watching television. That's when Mike started thinking about early retirement. What was the point of continuing to work? He had more money than he needed. His children didn't need him. He had no one to share his success with. The idea of spending another decade in Denver, alone in that house, felt unbearable. Mike started researching retirement abroad. He wanted somewhere warm, affordable, and culturally interesting. Thailand kept appearing in his research, specifically Phuket, with its beaches, international community, and infrastructure that could support an expat lifestyle. But Mike wasn't interested in the bar scene or the stereotypical expat experience. He wanted something more substantial, a community, a purpose, maybe even a way to use his financial expertise to help others. In January, about 18 months ago, Mike retired from his firm. He sold some investments, kept his house for now as a backup plan, and booked a 3-month exploratory trip to Phuket. When Mike's plane touched down at Phuket International Airport on a humid evening in late January, he felt cautiously optimistic. This was his chance to reinvent himself, to build a life with meaning beyond spreadsheets and investment portfolios. Phuket was beautiful turquoise waters, white sand beaches, lush green hills. Mike rented a luxury condo in Patong for the first month while he explored different areas of the island. The place cost 45,000 baht per month, about $1,300, and offered a level of comfort Mike appreciated. Unlike some retirees who immediately immerse themselves in the party scene, Mike spent his first few weeks quietly observing. He ate at nice restaurants, explored temples and viewpoints, and attended events organized by various expat groups. He wanted to understand the culture, meet quality people, and find his niche. In late February, Mike attended a charity gala organized by the Phuket International Business Network, an organization of expat entrepreneurs and Thai business owners who networked and supported local causes. The event was held at a luxury hotel in Kata, with about 200 attendees dressed in formal attire. That's where Mike met Thanchanak Siravong. Ploy introduced herself during the cocktail reception before dinner. Mike was standing alone near the bar, nursing a gin and tonic and observing the crowd, when a sophisticated Thai woman in an elegant black dress approached with a warm smile. "You look like someone who's thinking very deeply," she said in excellent English with a slight British accent. "First time at one of these events?" Mike smiled, appreciating the non-aggressive approach. "That obvious? Only to someone who's paying attention." She extended her hand. "Thanchanak Siravong, but everyone calls me Ploy. I'm a real estate consultant working with foreign investors." Michael Harrington. Mike, just moved here from Denver. Financial advisor, recently retired. Ploy's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "Financial advisor? That's wonderful. We desperately need more people with that kind of expertise here. So many foreigners come to Phuket and make terrible investment decisions because they don't understand the market." They talked for the next hour, and Mike found himself genuinely impressed. Ploy was 35, educated in England with a degree in business from the University of London, and ran a small real estate consultancy helping foreign investors navigate Thai property law. She was articulate, professional, and refreshingly substantive compared to the shallow conversations Mike had endured at other expat events. "The challenge," Ploy explained, "is that most foreigners don't understand Thai regulations. They see cheap property, get excited, and make emotional decisions. Then they lose everything because they didn't structure things properly." Mike nodded. "That's exactly how people lose money in any market. Emotion overrides analysis." "Exactly. You understand." Ploy smiled. "Most foreigners here don't have financial literacy. They're bartenders or teachers or retirees living on pensions. Having someone with your background could make a real difference." Mike felt a warm glow of validation. After years of being ignored by his children and feeling purposeless, here was someone who valued his expertise. They exchanged business cards before the evening ended. Ploy's card was professionally printed with her company name, Andaman Property Consultants Limited, and contact information including office address, phone, email, and line ID. "I'd love to continue this conversation," Ploy said. "Perhaps lunch this week? I can show you some investment opportunities that might interest someone with your analytical mindset." Mike agreed immediately. They met for lunch 3 days later at an upscale restaurant in Phuket town. Ploy arrived with a leather portfolio containing detailed presentations about property development opportunities in Phuket, specifically a mixed-use development near Rawai that promised excellent returns. "The project is already 30% funded," Ploy explained, showing him glossy brochures with architectural renderings. We're looking for strategic investors who can contribute expertise as well as capital. Someone with your financial background would be invaluable for analyzing cash flows and return models. Mike studied the materials. Everything looked professional, detailed financial projections, architectural plans, even a site map showing the property location. The projected returns were attractive but not unrealistic, 8 to 12% annually over 5 years. Who else is involved? Mike asked. A consortium of Thai and foreign investors. I handle the foreign investor relations. We have architectural firms, construction companies, all the necessary partners. But we lack someone with serious financial expertise to oversee the investment structure. Mike felt something stir, not just interest in the investment, but excitement at being needed for his skills rather than just his money. Over the next 3 weeks, Mike and Ploy met regularly. She showed him property sites, introduced him to people she claimed were architects and contractors, and walked him through the legal structures used for foreign investment in Thai property. Everything seemed legitimate and professional. But more than the business relationship, Mike found himself drawn to Ploy personally. She was intelligent, accomplished, and easy to talk to. She asked about his life, listened attentively when he talked about losing Caroline, and shared her own story of being divorced and focused on building her career. I was married young, she told him over dinner one evening, to a Thai man who wanted a traditional wife, but I wanted more than cooking and staying home. We divorced 5 years ago. Now I focus on my business. Mike respected that. She was independent, ambitious, driven qualities he admired. By late March, 2 months after meeting, their relationship had shifted from professional to personal. They had dinner together several times a week. Ploy invited Mike to her apartment, a modern, well-furnished place in Phuket town that reinforced her image of success. She introduced him to her friends, other young Thai professionals who seemed genuinely accomplished. One evening in early April, after a particularly nice dinner, Ploy kissed him. I know there's an age difference, she said softly, but I don't care about that. You're intelligent, successful, kind. You make me feel understood in a way Thai men never have. Mike felt his heart swell. He was falling in love, and it felt real, not transactional like the stories he'd heard about bar girls, but genuine and mutual. Call to action. If Mike's story is already raising concerns, please subscribe to our channel for more true crime and love scam documentaries from Southeast Asia. These sophisticated scams target intelligent, successful people using emotional manipulation and professional presentation. By subscribing and sharing, you help protect others from making the same devastating mistakes. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications now. By May, Mike had made his first significant investment in Ploy's development project. She'd presented him with a formal investment agreement, 20 pages of legal language, outlining the terms, returns, and structure. The document looked legitimate, complete with notary stamps and official-looking seals. Mike was investing $125,000 for a 7% equity stake in the Rawai development. I want you as a partner, not just an investor, Ploy said. Your financial expertise will be crucial as we scale this project. Mike wired the money to a company account Ploy provided, Andaman Development Holdings Limited. He received official receipts and documentation confirming his investment. For the next few weeks, Mike felt energized. He had a purpose again, analyzing cash flows, reviewing contractor bids, meeting with what he believed were legitimate architects and engineers. Ploy included him in every decision, asking his opinion, valuing his input. You've been so helpful, she told him one evening. I don't know how I managed before meeting you. Mike felt genuinely useful for the first time since Caroline died. His children still barely communicated with him, but here was someone who valued him, needed him, loved him. In June, Ploy moved into Mike's condo. It happened gradually, first staying over a few nights a week, then most nights, then officially relocating. She contributed to rent and utilities, insisting on being an equal partner in their domestic life. I don't want to be dependent on you, she said. We're equals, partners. Mike respected that. This wasn't a sugar baby relationship. This was a real partnership between accomplished adults. But then Ploy started suggesting Mike invest more heavily. There's an opportunity to acquire additional land adjacent to our project, she explained in early July. If we can secure it now, we can expand the development and significantly increase returns. But we need to move quickly before other investors find out. She showed him updated financial models, new architectural renderings, and a time-sensitive offer from the landowner. The additional investment required was $150,000. Mike hesitated. That was a significant amount on top of his initial investment, but Ploy's logic was sound, and the projections looked solid. He'd built his career on analyzing investments, and this one seemed fundamentally sound. He wired the money. In August, there was another opportunity purchasing construction equipment at a discount from a company that was liquidating assets. $95,000 would save the project money in the long run, Ploy explained. Mike wired the money. In September, unexpected permit fees and legal costs emerged. $80,000 needed immediately to avoid delays. Mike wired the money. By October, Mike had invested $450,000 in various aspects of the project. His savings account had decreased from $1,200,000 to $750,000, a significant portion of his wealth, but still manageable, and the project was progressing, according to Ploy. She showed him photos from the construction site foundation work, steel frameworks being erected, construction crews at work. Mike felt proud every time he saw those photos. He was building something, creating something. His money wasn't just sitting in conservative index funds anymore. It was generating jobs, creating a development that would benefit the community. But then Ploy suggested something that made Mike uncomfortable. She wanted access to his Bangkok bank accounts for convenience. It would make transfers easier, she explained. I handle so many of the day-to-day transactions for the project. If I could transfer directly when opportunities arise, we wouldn't miss time-sensitive deals. Mike's financial advisor instincts screamed warning. Never give someone unrestricted access to your accounts. Never. It was the most basic rule of financial security. But this was Ploy, his partner, his fiancée. They'd gotten engaged in September in a romantic ceremony on Karen Beach. They were building a life together. Didn't marriage mean trust? Didn't partnership require shared access? I'll set up a joint account, Mike suggested as a compromise. We'll use that for project expenses. Ploy looked hurt. You don't trust me? It's not about trust. It's about good financial practice. Mike, I've shown you everything. Every document, every transaction, every detail. We're partners. If you can't trust me with account access, what does that say about our relationship? The guilt was immediate and effective. Mike was being paranoid. He was letting past experiences, Caroline's death, his children's abandonment, poison something good. You're right, Mike said. I'm sorry. I'll add you to the accounts. He went to the bank the next day and added Ploy as an authorized signatory on his primary savings and checking accounts. She could now transfer money, make withdrawals, manage transactions. Thank you for trusting me, Ploy said that evening, kissing him deeply. I promise I'll never abuse this trust. And for a while, everything seemed fine. Ploy used the access judiciously, making transfers for project expenses and keeping Mike informed about everything. But Mike didn't know that those project expense transfers were going to shell companies that existed only on paper. He didn't know that the construction site photos were from different projects that Ploy had photographed and presented as their own. He didn't know that the architects and engineers he'd met were actors paid to play roles. He didn't know that everything, absolutely everything, was an elaborately staged performance designed to drain his wealth while keeping him emotionally invested and distracted. By November, 14 months after meeting Ploy, Mike had invested $685,000 in various project-related expenses. He'd liquidated most of his investment portfolio, leaving only his pension and the equity in his Denver house, which he'd been considering selling to move to Thailand permanently. Ploy had suggested they buy a permanent home together in Phuket, a beautiful villa in Kamala that cost 9 million baht, approximately $250,000. Mike would provide the down payment and finance the rest through a Thai bank mortgage, with the property registered in Ploy's name due to foreign ownership restrictions. But we'll have a legal agreement, Ploy assured him. A usufruct contract giving you lifetime rights to the property. It's completely safe and common for foreign Thai couples. Mike was considering it. The villa was beautiful, and having a permanent home would be nice. But first, he wanted to see the development project they'd been working on for over a year. When can we visit the construction site? Mike asked in late November. I'd love to see the progress in person. Ploy always had excuses. The site wasn't safe for visitors yet. The contractors were behind schedule and embarrassed to show current conditions. The access road was being repaired and wasn't passable. Regulatory inspections made visits impossible for a few weeks. Mike accepted these explanations at first, but as weeks turned into months, doubt began creeping in. Why couldn't he visit his own investment? Why were there always barriers? Then in early December, Mike received a strange phone call from an American expat named Robert, who'd attended some of the same networking events. "Mike, I need to ask you something sensitive," Robert said. "Are you involved in the Rawai development project with Andaman Development Holdings?" "Yes, I'm a primary investor." "Why?" "I tried to look up the company to see if there were investment opportunities. I can't find any legitimate business registration. Their business license number doesn't show up in the Department of Business Development database." Mike felt his stomach clench. "What? Are you sure you're checking correctly?" "I'm sure. I've invested in several Thai companies. I know how to verify registration. Either they're under a completely different name or the company doesn't legally exist. I thought you should know." After hanging up, Mike spent the next 3 hours trying to verify Andaman Development Holdings' existence. He searched the Department of Business Development website, looked up their tax identification number, tried to find any official government record of the company. Nothing. The company appeared to exist only on paper in the documents Ploy had shown him, but nowhere in official government databases. Mike confronted Ploy that evening. "I can't find any official registration for Andaman Development Holdings. Can you show me the actual government registration documents?" Ploy didn't miss a beat. "Of course. The company is registered under a slightly different name for tax purposes. I'll bring the documents tomorrow from the office." But tomorrow came and went without the documents. Ploy said she'd forgotten them. Then the office was closed for a holiday. Then she couldn't find the specific file. Then her assistant who handled documentation was sick. Excuses piled on excuses. And Mike's anxiety grew. He started reviewing his bank statements more carefully, something he'd been too trusting to do regularly. What he found made his blood run cold. Beyond the large transfers he knew about, there were dozens of smaller transfers to various accounts he didn't recognize. $10,000 here, $15,000 there, $8,000, $20,000 transfers that Ploy had made using her account access. Transfers Mike had never authorized or even known about. Mike added them up. The total was astronomical, $703,000 transferred out of his accounts over the past 10 months. Far more than the investment amounts he'd consciously agreed to. His hands trembling, Mike called the bank and requested a fraud investigation meeting. That's when he received the call that brought him to the Bangkok Bank VIP branch, staring at transaction records that proved his worst fears. The bank's fraud department worked with frightening efficiency once Mike reported the unauthorized transfers. Within 48 hours, they'd traced the money to a network of shell companies in Singapore, Hong Kong, and the British Virgin Islands. The companies existed only on paper, no physical offices, no employees, no legitimate business operations. They were financial ghosts designed to receive and launder money. Andaman Development Holdings, Andaman Property Consultants, Rawai Development Corporation, none of them were legitimately registered Thai companies. The business licenses Ploy had shown Mike were sophisticated forgeries. The construction site photos, pulled from other legitimate projects and presented as their own. The architects and engineers Mike had met, actors hired through a Thai casting agency, playing roles for a few $100s per meeting. The investment documents, professional forgeries complete with fake notary seals and legal jargon. Even Ploy's apartment, the modern, well-furnished place that had seemed to validate her success, was a short-term rental that she decorated specifically to impress Mike. The bank connected Mike with the Thai Economic Crime Suppression Division, who assigned a detective named Captain Somchai to investigate. Somchai was a veteran officer who'd seen this type of scam before. "Mr. Harrington, I need to tell you something difficult," Somchai said during their first meeting. "The woman you know as Thanchanak Siravong is not who she claims to be." Somchai showed Mike a file. Ploy's real name was Thanchanak Siravong, but she'd never attended the University of London. She'd never earned a business degree. She'd spent her 20s working in entertainment venues and had been arrested twice for minor fraud before ascending to more sophisticated schemes. "She works with a network," Somchai explained. "They target wealthy foreign men, usually divorced or widowed, usually professionals who think they're too smart to be scammed. They create elaborate fake business opportunities, build emotional relationships to gain trust, and systematically drain accounts. How many victims? Mike asked, his voice hollow. That we know of? 8 over the past 6 years. Total theft approximately $3 million. But many victims never report due to embarrassment. Somchai showed Mike photos of other victims, men from America, Britain, Australia, Germany, all successful professionals, all between 55 and 70 years old. All had lost between $400,000 and $1 million to Ploy and her network. Where is she now? Mike asked. We tracked her to Singapore 2 days ago. She flew out the same day your bank flagged the fraud. Singapore won't extradite for financial crimes unless there's evidence of violent offenses. She's effectively safe there. Mike felt the room spinning. So she just gets away with it? We'll try to freeze assets if we can locate them. We'll file charges in Thailand and issue warrants. But realistically, yes, she probably escapes justice. These networks are sophisticated. They move money through multiple jurisdictions, use fake identities, and disappear before victims realize what happened. Mike went home to the condo he'd been sharing with Ploy, now empty of her belongings, and systematically went through everything she'd left behind. He found a pregnancy test in the bathroom trash positive, another manipulation tactic, probably, another way to secure his commitment and cloud his judgment. He found a passport in a drawer, but the photo was Ploy, with a different name, Siraporn Radanakal, a fake identity, probably one of several she maintained. He found land deeds for their investment properties, all forgeries with official-looking stamps that would fall apart under expert examination. Everything she'd shown him, everything she'd promised, every document she'd presented, all meticulously crafted lies. Mike sat alone in that empty condo and felt something break inside him, not just his financial security, but his fundamental trust in his own judgment. He'd spent 35 years advising people on financial decisions, and he'd walked directly into the most obvious scam imaginable because a beautiful woman had made him feel valuable. Mike hired the best lawyer in Phuket, a Thai attorney named Kun Narong, who specialized in fraud cases involving foreigners. Narong reviewed all the evidence and delivered his assessment with professional compassion. Mr. Harrington, we can pursue civil and criminal cases, but I must be honest about your chances of recovery. The money has been moved offshore to jurisdictions with strong banking privacy laws. Even if we win judgments, collecting is nearly impossible. The assets you thought you owned were never real. The woman you trusted has multiple identities and is currently outside Thai jurisdiction. I estimate your recovery potential at less than 5%. 5%? Mike's voice cracked. I invested $700,000. I'm very sorry. These scams are designed specifically to be legally complex and financially unrecoverable. The perpetrators know exactly how to structure things to avoid consequences. Mike went ahead with the legal actions anyway, spending another $35,000 on lawyers, investigators, and international legal consultations. After 8 months of effort, he recovered approximately $11,000 from a frozen Singapore account before the network moved assets beyond reach. Total recovery, less than 2% of his losses. Meanwhile, Mike's financial situation had become dire. He'd depleted most of his liquid assets, and his pension alone, approximately $4,000 per month, wasn't enough to maintain his previous lifestyle. In desperation, Mike sold his Denver house. The market had cooled since he'd left, and after paying off the mortgage he'd taken against it to fund more of Ploy's investments, he netted $170,000. Combined with his remaining savings and pension, Mike had approximately $225,000 left. It was enough to survive on, but Mike had lost nearly 75% of his wealth. His children, who'd been distant before, became openly judgmental when they learned what happened. Emma called him pathetically naive. David said he was embarrassed to explain to his wife that his father had been scammed by a Thai woman. Neither offered financial help or emotional support. Mike moved from Phuket to Chiang Mai, where living costs were lower. He rented a small one-bedroom apartment for 12,000 baht per month, about $350 in a quiet neighborhood away from tourist areas. He was 65 now, living on a budget that allowed no luxuries, with no realistic hope of rebuilding his wealth and no one to blame but himself. 6 months after Ploy disappeared, Captain Somchai contacted Mike with an update. We've uncovered more about the network, Somchai said. Ploy works with at least 3 other Thai women and several Thai men who play supporting roles, the fake architects, lawyers, contractors. They operate across Thailand and Southeast Asia, targeting high-net-worth foreigners. They've stolen at least $5 million over the past 7 years. "Have you caught any of them?" Mike asked. "We arrested 2 of the men who played architect roles. They're cooperating in exchange for reduced sentences. But the main players, Ploy and the other women, are outside our jurisdiction. One is in Singapore, one in Malaysia, one possibly in Vietnam. They move constantly, always ahead of enforcement." Somchai shared something else. Ploy had been married, not divorced as she'd claimed, but actively married to a Thai man who was also part of the scam network. He played the role of business partner in some cons, romantic rival in others, whatever the script required. "She has a child too," Somchai added, 4-year-old daughter, lives with Ploy's mother in Bangkok, all funded by scam proceeds. Mike absorbed this with numb detachment. The woman he'd loved, the partner he'd trusted, the fiancé he'd planned a future with, she'd been playing a role while maintaining a completely separate real life. Everything was fiction. Somchai put Mike in contact with other victims. Through email and video calls, Mike connected with 5 men who'd been scammed by Ploy or her network. James from Australia had lost $475,000 in a fake hotel development scheme. Henrik from Norway had lost $620,000 in a restaurant investment scam. Robert from England, the same Robert who'd warned Mike about the company registration, had lost $390,000 in a different property scheme. All their stories were variations on the same theme: sophisticated presentation, emotional manipulation, professional documentation, slow drainage of assets, and vanishing acts once the money was gone. "The worst part," Henrik said during one video call, "isn't even the money. It's that she made me believe I was smart, valuable, needed. She made me feel like I mattered, and all of it was calculated to make me lower my guard." Mike understood exactly what he meant. Michael Harrington now lives modestly in a small apartment in Chiang Mai, surviving on his pension and the remnants of his savings. He's 66 years old, and the life he'd imagined, wealthy retirement, meaningful projects, loving partnership, is gone forever. But Mike has found a new purpose: warning others. He started a blog called The Financial Advisor Who Got Scammed, where he details his experience with brutal honesty. He writes about every manipulation tactic Ploy used, every red flag he ignored, every moment his ego overrode his judgment. The blog has become popular in expat communities, with thousands of readers and dozens of men reaching out to thank Mike for potentially saving them from similar fates. Mike also volunteers with the Thai Economic Crime Suppression Division, helping them identify scam patterns and educate potential victims. His financial expertise, which Ploy exploited, now helps law enforcement understand how these sophisticated frauds work. "The hardest thing to accept," Mike wrote in a recent blog post, "is that this happened because of my emotional vulnerabilities, not despite my intelligence. Ploy didn't target me because I was stupid. She targeted me because I was lonely, grieving, and desperate to feel valued. She gave me exactly what I needed emotionally, while systematically taking everything I had financially. And she was so good at it that I never saw it coming until it was too late." Last month, Mike received an email from a 62-year-old American named Thomas, who'd been dating a Thai woman for 3 months. She'd just suggested they invest in a property development project together, with all the same sophisticated presentations and professional documentation Mike remembered. Thomas recognized the pattern from Mike's blog and walked away before investing a single dollar. "You saved me," Thomas wrote. "I was about to liquidate my retirement accounts. Your blog made me see what I couldn't see for myself. Thank you." Mike read that email 3 times, feeling something close to redemption. If his catastrophic loss could save others from the same fate, maybe there was some meaning in the destruction. He still thinks about Ploy sometimes. Not with love that died the moment he understood the scope of the con, but with a kind of professional respect. She was extraordinary at what she did. The attention to detail, the emotional intelligence, the ability to read people and give them exactly what they needed. It was masterful. Evil, but masterful. Mike will never recover financially from what happened. He'll live the rest of his life on a fraction of what he'd saved. He'll never retire in luxury or leave an inheritance to his children who don't speak to him anyway. He'll never trust another romantic partner again. But he's still here, still warning others, still using his story to protect people from predators like Ploy. "She didn't just steal my money," Mike told a journalist recently. "She stole the last part of me that believed in people. And that's the real crime, not the $700,000, but the part of my humanity that trusted, hoped, and believed in connection. She killed that, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to prevent her from killing it in others. If Mike's story impacted you, please subscribe and share this video immediately. Romance and investment scams are becoming increasingly sophisticated, targeting educated, intelligent people who think they're too smart to be fooled. These predators don't exploit stupidity. They exploit loneliness, grief, and the human need for connection and purpose. By sharing stories like Mike's, we protect vulnerable people from financial and emotional devastation. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and help us spread this critical message. Your share could save someone from losing everything. Thank you for watching, and remember, real partnerships don't require you to surrender financial control. Verify everything, trust slowly, and never let emotion override analysis. Stay safe out there.